page 54 in your math composition book is multiplying a mixed number by a whole number. One way we're going to do that is to rename that mixed number as a fraction. We're going to multiply, and then we're going to rename it back as a mixed number. Now, we already multiplied fractions and whole numbers on page 53. We multiplied a fraction and a whole number. Multiply the numerator and the whole number, and the denominator stays the same. So we're going to incorporate some of that into today's lesson. So let's take a look at our first example. We've got 3 times 1 and 1/4. 1 and 1/4 is our mixed number, so we are going to get rid of that and rename it as a fraction greater than 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Denominator stays the same. Then, I'm going to get rid of this. I don't need this anymore because I renamed it. Now I'm going to multiply. 3 times 5 is 15. My denominator stays the same. So I've done the multiply part, and then I've just got to rename it again. 4 times what number gets me closest to 15 without going over is 4 times 3, because that gets me all the way up to 12, and I have 3 as my remainder. Denominator stays the same. So when I multiply 3 times 1 and 1/4, my answer is 3 and 3/4. Let's try another one. Alrighty, so remember commutative property of multiplication. It doesn't matter if it's the first factor or the second factor, it works the same. So this is my mixed number. This is the one I am going to make into a fraction greater than 1. And I do that by multiplying. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Denominator stays the same. So I got rid of this and I renamed it as a fraction. Now all I need to do is multiply 2 times 13/6. So we know that the denominator stays the same, and I'm going to do the multiplication with the numerators. 2 times 13 is 26. So I'm almost done. I renamed, I multiplied, now I need to rename it back as a mixed number. And I do that by doing division. 6 times what number gets me closest to 26? That would be 6 times 4, because we get to 24. I still need 2 more to get to 26, so that's my remainder, and the denominator stays the same. Another example. Let's take a look at this one. 5 times 1 and 1/6. I'm going to rename 1 and 1/6. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 more is 7. Denominator stays the same. I'm done with this because I renamed it. Now I need to do 5 times 7, 6. 5 times 7 is 35. Denominator stays the same. So now thinking of my 6 timetables, which 6 timetables gets me closest to 35? That is 6 times 5, because it gets me to 30. My remainder is 5, and the denominator stays the same. Alrighty, let's do one more, and now I'm going to give you some time to do it on your own before I do the work. Go ahead and see if you can do 2 2/3 times 4. Alrighty, I'm going to start by renaming this. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 more is 8/3. I'm done with this. Now I need to multiply 4 times 8/3. 4 times 8 is 32, and my denominator stays the same. So I need to think 3 times what gets me closest to 32 without going over. and that would be 3 times 10, because it takes me all the way up to 30. My remainder is 2, and my denominator stays the same. So we have just done 4 examples, or 4 practice questions, of multiplying a mixed number and a whole number using rename, multiply, and renaming it again. This is not the only way to do it. This is one way. So let's take a look at the back at another way to do it. So this other way involves multiplying the whole numbers and then multiplying the fraction and the whole number. So we're going to be doing kind of like the distributive method. We're going to multiply part of it, and then we're going to multiply the other part of it. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. We're going to use the same examples that we used in the front, the same problems, but we're just going to do it the different way. So let's take a look at 3 times 1 and 1/4. We're going to multiply the whole numbers. 3 times 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Then we're going to go ahead and distribute this. We're going to multiply the whole number and the fraction. 3 times 1/4 is 3 times 1, and the denominator stays the same. As you can see, 3 3/4 is the same answer that we got on the front. Let's take a look at the next one. There's a lot less work involved here. Let's multiply the 2 whole numbers. 2 times 2 is 4. Now let's multiply the fraction and the whole number. 1 times 2 is 2, and my denominator stays the same. Alrighty, since this requires a lot less steps, let me see if you guys can do this one on your own. 5 times 1 and 1/6. Alrighty, so we're going to multiply the whole numbers. 5 times 1 is 5. And then we're going to multiply the whole number and the fraction. 5 times 1/6 is 5/6. And our last practice question, 2 2/3 times 4. Go ahead and try this one. And we've got 2 times 4 is 8. And then we're going to multiply. We already did this. Now we're going to multiply the fraction and the whole number. 2 times 4 again is 8. My denominator stays the same. And this is a good answer, but it is not the correct answer. This is a fraction greater than 1. This has to be renamed. So when I do 8 divided by 3, my answer is 2, because 2 times 3 gets me closest to 8. It gets me to 6, and I still have a remainder of 2. Denominator stays the same. So this 8/3 actually equals 2 2/3. I'm going to combine the whole numbers. 8 plus 2 is 10, and my fraction stays. 10 2/3. And if I come to the front, our answer for the third question was 10 2/3. So we have done multiplying a mixed number by a whole number using 2 different strategies.